Good morning. My name is Young-gi Kim Runo. I'm president of the DC chapter of kowin, which is Korean International Women's Network. And also, actually, my main job is I am a professor at the George Washington University. And I'm really happy to see so many of you this morning. Dean Vincent, who is very supportive of this meeting, which is co-organized with the George Washington's Korean Language and Culture Program and the Korean Student Association, unfortunately is giving another speech right on campus actually right now. So he kindly sent a video taped greeting, so we'll watch it first, all right? So Dean Vincent, to save time, I won't introduce him, especially since he's not here. Please read the program. He's a wonderful new dean we have at George Washington. He came from Johns Hopkins. He has a wonderful background, wonderful scholar, and he proves to be a great administrator. So we will watch his video greeting.
As the Dean of GW's Columbia College of Arts and Sciences, I want to welcome each of you to our Mount Vernon campus. I apologize that I cannot be with you today in person, but I would like to take this opportunity to recognize such a remarkable interdisciplinary and intercultural gathering of individuals who are focused on mentoring emerging female leaders from both the Korean American and international communities. Your goal to promote better understanding and cooperation between people of diverse origins, interests, and expertise is an admirable one, and I applaud each of you for your work in this area. I understand that the theme of today's seminar is the celebration of diversity and inclusion. As a scholar of history, I am particularly cognizant of the critical role of cross-cultural understanding in a 21st century world where physical borders are becoming increasingly irrelevant. Knowledge knows no boundaries, and leadership steeped in communication and understanding can truly advance a more civilized world. I would like to thank the Korean Women's International Network for advancing this important international dialogue. I particularly commend its efforts in mentorship and in promoting women's rights, an issue that cuts across nationalities. I also extend my appreciation to the Korean Language and Culture Program and the Korean Student Association for helping to organize this event today. And of course, special gratitude goes to Young-gi Kim Runo, the chair of the Department of East Asian Languages and Literatures and president of the DC chapter of the Korean Women's International Network. She continues to be an inspiring leader and mentor, both professionally and personally. And we appreciate all that she has done to advance and celebrate diversity and collaboration. Finally, I want to thank all of you for being participants in what promises to be an enlightening discussion. I look forward to hearing the highlights of this event when I return. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. So I'll make a brief welcoming address. My introduction is also on the program, and it's not really a big deal, so let's go right into it. So it is with much joy and pride that I welcome every one of you to the 5th annual kowin DC Leadership Seminar. As you know, this mentoring program is one of the most significant and important endeavors of kowin DC. Our mission is to facilitate and enhance networking among socially active women of Korean descent around the world. Given such a goal, kowin DC members do all we can to help the next generation Korean women to prepare themselves to assume a leadership role, not only where they live, but in the global community, taking full advantage of their professional expertise and their international experiences. Our 4 past mentoring seminars have been extremely well received and got lots of media coverage. And today's meeting promises to continue the tradition of excellence and serious efforts. Just as in the past, this is not a one-way street. Every participant in today's program will benefit from learning from and about each other, regardless of the particular role assumed. The bond we will be forming as a result will be just as precious and long-lasting as all the new knowledge and experiences we will have gained through this program. I strongly hope and trust we, women of Korean descent, and all those who would like to network with them, that means everyone, will leave this place so much wiser, more optimistic, and more confident to meet the challenges of life. This is why the seminar has a sunny side in the title. This year's seminar focuses on the importance of diversity and inclusion. These 2 words are very much in fashion today, as you know, not only due to our increasingly open-minded and democratizing world, but especially, and perhaps ironically, because many are still suffering from inequality and unfair treatment that persists everywhere in spite of the great strides the whole world has made. Diversity and inclusion is instinctively appealing and seems easy enough to embrace in our lives. However, as Judith Martin, better known as Miss Manners, said in a speech just last week, the best way to understand a society is to look at their laws, for these are made to control widespread but unwanted behavior. Indeed, many of the dystopian stories, including the recently published On Such a Foresee by Chang Lee, expressed the malaise and anxiety felt by so many people about the visible inequality in self-described democratic societies. And the push for diversity and inclusion reveals an area to which today's leaders must necessarily pay attention. It is most encouraging and heartwarming that these 2 words are already becoming part of our everyday vocabulary. However, what we need to aim for in advocating celebration of differences, diversity and inclusion is not simply the tolerance of differences, but actually the celebration of differences in thinking and living. First, diversity and inclusion concern basic human rights. Minority must have a role to play in society and should not be discriminated against or excluded from it, as has been in the past. Minorities' rights shouldn't be violated just because they are not like the mainstream population. Second, diversity and inclusion improves human civilization by recognizing that each human being has something to contribute to society. This is the substantive reason that lies behind the point of view of human rights advocates. Third, diversity and inclusion is simply good science. When we analyze any matter or phenomenon, we identify better hypotheses and get closer to truth when we look at them from as many different angles as possible. In short, diversity and inclusion helps everyone, as human beings enjoy looking at each other and learning from each other. eventually to live better together. It is in this spirit that I should like all of us to approach today's mentoring seminar. We are here to get good advice from each other, regardless of the specific role we are expected to play. Some of us who have had more experiences than others will share our cases of successes and failures, but not act as if we got all the answers. I hope this will be a day of discovery as much as a day of reminiscences for all. I hope we can discuss with each other, as women of Korean descent, how our assets could be more positively exploited. I'm convinced we shall go home with a feeling of great sense of togetherness and rejuvenation regardless of our age, including myself. On behalf of kowin2014, I sincerely thank the various sponsors of today's event, acknowledged on our program for their generous donations. I'm also deeply grateful to GW Dean Benson of Columbian College in Arts and Sciences. I am most grateful to the Korean Language and Culture Program. All of us are here today. And the Korean Student Association, including the President Park Sung-joon, who are co-organizers of this event this year. I'm immensely indebted to our remarkable pool of mentors and moderators, all extremely busy ladies who so graciously agreed to come to our seminar and to provide valuable opportunities of mingling with our future leaders. My special thanks also go to my seminar co-chair, Mio. Where are you, Mio? Over there. And seminar other committee members, Yeon-suk, Victoria Seo, right in front, and Yoon-gyung, where are you? Over there. And Kangwon Jung, Bolston, she's busy in the back. It's amazing how such very busy ladies could find so much time to devote to this project. I now wish everyone to enjoy to the fullest today's program. Thank you. Thank you for coming. So next on our program is our main, actually the featured speaker today. If I sound a little like making another speech, please bear with me. I cannot make it short. And even with that, I probably don't justice to what Alexa has done and is, to me personally, as well as to the entire academic community. So I'm pleased to introduce this year's keynote speaker, Alexa Huang. Dr. Huang is Professor of English, Theater, East Asian Languages and Literatures, and International Affairs at George Washington University. It used to be my title was the longest at GW. Now she just overtook me by far. At GW, she has co-founded and co-directs the Digital Humanities Institute, directs the Dean Scholars in Shakespeare program, which is based here on the Mount Vernon campus, and serves as a director of graduate studies in English. Doesn't she sound like about 5 people? The moment I met Alexa 2.5 years ago, when she joined the faculty of GW, I knew here was an unusual individual and colleagues, so full of spirit, energy, curiosity, and above all, generosity to her colleagues and students with her time and effort. We sort of adopted each other, and she soon began calling me her godmother, maybe grandmother too, which I took as a supreme compliment anyone could expect from her. She has never stopped surprising me with her creative ideas since then. Her eagerness to be of help to the others is never just lip service. I just don't know how she manages to find so much time for the others when she's so incredibly productive as a scholar, as an administrator, and as a teacher. Alexa is the first keynote speaker who is not of Korean origin here. However, having her here today is for far more important reasons than fitting the title of this seminar, Diversity and Inclusion. First, she has an extraordinary life story to tell. She's young, but it is hard to believe she has already achieved so much. She's arguably the most sought after speaker I know these days, and she's like a Hong Gil-dong, Korean Robin Hood endowed with mythical powers, appearing one day in Japan and another day in England, as it were. Armed with my godmother status, I asked her if she could come and deliver this year's keynote speech. And there she is, to my and to, I'm sure, to your utter delight. Alexa may not have a drop of Korean blood flowing in her, but she does have some significant connection with Korea. Most of her may be emotional, hopefully. In the summer of 2010, she served as a distinguished visiting professor at Seoul National University. She also co-organized with me the 19th Han-Muslim Colloquium in the Korean Humanities here at GW, which focused on Korean theater. Alexa's story, which you're about to hear, is as inspiring as it's extraordinary. She has had to overcome many different kinds of obstacles, disadvantages, setbacks, and challenges. But she managed to reach the top at a young age. We all know how challenging it is for foreign-born scholars to find a job, as much less establish themselves in such a competitive field as maybe also parochial, as Shakespeare studies. But she has established herself as a highly respected scholar and teacher of Shakespeare. I imagine Alexa taught a Shakespeare seminar in a summer graduate program at Lincoln College, Oxford University. And she recently became the first Asian woman in over 150 years to chair the Modern Language Association's Committee on New Valorium edition of Shakespeare. Inaugurated in the 1860s, this is one of the standard reference editions of Shakespeare's work. Her recent book, Chinese Shakespeare, 2 Centuries of Cultural Exchange, received many awards, 3 major awards. I won't go over it for the benefit of time. This year, Alexa was named the Fulbright Distinguished Chair in Global Shakespeare Studies in London for next year academic year, and received the American Council of Learned Society's Frederick Bookhart Residential Fellowship at the Forges Shakespeare Library for the following year. In addition to her scholarly achievements, Alexa has also made significant contributions to outreach and community service. For example, she has worked closely with high school students and teachers on developing global cultural and digital literacy. Last summer, she was invited to address the U.S. Congress on globalization and the importance of the humanities in the 21st century. She has served as the video curator of an exhibition at the Folger Library, and she has lectured and served as consultant for film studies, film series, exhibitions, and events for various institutions in DC, including the Free Sackler Galleries, Phillips Collection, and the Folger Theater. She has also appeared on or been quoted by BBC Radio, BBC TV, Voice of America, and other television radio programs to discuss cultural globalization. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Alexa Huang.
All my life, I've been looking for a place to call home. I had to look for a place to call home because when I was born, I was wrecked on a foreign shore. Thank you, Yankee, for inviting me to this wonderful gathering. I'm truly humbled to be in the same room with so many leaders. My job today is simply to share my story and to hear yours. Some people register a sense of place through sweet memories of taste and sounds, others through scent and smell, and still others through images in their mind's eye. I don't know about you, but for me, the world is full of stories. Can you hear me in the back? All right. The world is made up of stories full of sound and fury. Great stories are often strangers at home. They defamiliarize everyday experience while providing us something recognizable. Great stories also turn us into strangers to ourselves. They allow us a healthy distance for self-reflection and to understand ourselves. I'm going to try to, I don't like to have behind audience. I was born to Taiwanese parents in a farming village in southern Taiwan. Sultry summer evenings, my grandma would tell me stories. She would sit me down and tell me stories, fairy tales under a fairy sky, stories about her life under Japanese colonial rule, stories about stones, about house lizards, and the village. I would look up to the sky and wonder what was out there beyond the horizon. This is how I developed an appetite for stories. Despite Taiwan's status as an immigration society, despite its Portuguese, Spanish, Chinese, and Japanese colonial histories, the island, unfortunately, not very diverse, at least not in the sense of a society that embraces its internal diversity. There were a lot of socially imposed roles that were neatly divided along the lines of age, gender, class, and ethnicity. It did not help that I came from a traditional family that never questioned the Confucian patriarchal order. My grandma, the storyteller, was and still is the most articulate person in my family. She's the best communicator. My dad was not the chatty type. He barely knew which grade I was in. Either that or it was what he thought of as dry humor. I myself was a nerdy kid. I loved reading and creating stories, which I later learned are called narratives. I did okay in school, but I remember how I constantly fought the oppressive system of group memorization and endless exams. I suspect a lot of people in this room are familiar with that kind of things. Students' value as human beings seem to be determined by test results alone. I was the most unwelcome daydreamer. I was told by my teachers repeatedly that, kiddo, you may be smart, but if you don't focus on exams, you're not going to have a future. I was being suffocated, and there was no breathing room. In this environment, stories provided me breathing room. Stories gave me hope. Stories offered me a way out. As a college student at Tsinghua, I majored, therefore, in the practically impractical major known as English literature. I dreamed about the infinitely expanding world beyond the small island where I grew up. In college, some of my fellow English majors had their eyes on jobs that were traditionally coded feminine and family-friendly, such as school teachers and secretaries. Others targeted receptionist and secretarial jobs at transnational companies, such as Prada and IBM, where they hoped to find a future husband who might just turn out to be the CEO. Makeup, heels, mini skirt, and the ability to flirt in English were considered some of the most important things to master. They would get married, have kids, settle into the role of middle-aged housewives, and grow old before they knew it. There's nothing wrong with this pattern of life, but that's not what I wanted. I developed an appetite for traveling, traveling through stories, traveling through time. I'm fortunate enough to receive a scholarship to study in Germany, where I discovered that the most frequently performed playwright was not Goethe, but William Shakespeare, who had studied as an English major. That piqued my curiosity. As I would find out later, Shakespeare was an important figure that helped establish a unified German cultural identity. I soon learned that all over the world, Shakespeare has been a common cultural touchstone for cultures. My curiosity set me on a path of studying cultural globalization that took me to Strasbourg, Munich, Oxford, and several other countries. When I visited London, work was underway to reconstruct Shakespeare's renowned Globe. That Globe Theatre was located near its original site on the south bank along the River Thames, and I briefly donated a brick. I donated a brick to the project in the mind of a student from a small island nation that has not been recognized by the United Nations since 1971 and not by most countries. That brick was a material connection to a wider world beyond international politics, to a brave new world, if you will, as Miranda would say in The Tempest. And I wanted to find my own brave new world. I was either passionate enough to be blind or foolish enough to be passionate about the academia that I decided to not only study abroad, but pursue a career in the United States. I had no family connection in the country. I didn't know anyone. But Shakespeare played a huge role in my grand estate plan. Shakespeare's stories and the stories different cultures tell about Shakespeare eventually led me to California in the 21st century. A lifetime of not fitting in has taken its toll on me when I arrived at Stanford. After moving to the US, I became envious of Asian Americans who were born and raised here and embodied Americanness in a way that I never could. I desperately wanted to become one of them. I desperately wanted to embody whiteness and maleness. Thank God I never succeeded, otherwise I would have lost my true self. I was worried if people found out that I was an international student. I would not look legit. I would be alienated. I would not be a credible scholar. My anxiety was not entirely unfounded because I was and still am a minority in Shakespeare studies. In this case, it is not fun at all to be the 1%. It was not until last year that I felt comfortable talking about my Taiwanese origin in public. As a wide-eyed graduate student at Stanford, I learned how to ask probing questions, how to take history to task, and how to find a path through a dark forest of conflicting ideas. It is a privilege and a unique responsibility to teach Shakespeare here in downtown Washington, D.C., 3 blocks from the White House, as they like to say. And it is here at GW where I found courage to answer my calling to tell stories. Storytelling makes us human because it helps us understand the human condition in many different contexts. We are defined by stories we tell about ourselves. So here is mine. By telling you the following story, I'm giving up something that I hold most dear, my privacy. I hesitated, but to honor my loved ones, friends, students, I decided to accept Naoki's invitation, so I'm here today. I was shipwrecked on a foreign shore when I was born. I was born a baby girl, but I was born into a strange land where I was erroneously assigned a boy at birth. With profound sadness, I opened the suitcase that washed ashore with me to find a cruel joke on me by nature. In that suitcase, I found only boy clothes. I had no choice but to adopt boy outfits in order to survive. I kept the secret to myself and did my best to stay alive. Last year, after a long and strange journey, I finally found my maiden weeds and garments and happily returned to my true self. Under the care of my medical team, some of them are actually here with us today, I happily transitioned to a woman last year. As a kid, I did not realize just how much trouble I was in, and nobody ever told me what being born transgender means. My first childhood memory was actually hating my face and body. The flesh may be mine, but it's not me. I knew I was a girl since I was 3 years old. I never liked having my picture taken though. I have been afraid of mirrors my entire life. I had to turn my head whenever I walk past a mirror, or if there's a mirror in the room. I looked into the mirror and something monstrous looked back at me. I was an imposter, a misfit. I really felt trapped. At age 5, I knew the meaning of death. Death was a ticket for me to get out of a cursed body. At age 6, as a first grader, I knew that jumping from a second-floor apartment would not do it, that would not kill me. On my way home from school, I would scout taller buildings. When a 24-story office building opened in our neighborhood, I celebrated with other kids, celebrated the occasion, but with the wrong reason. Puberty was living hell. I did not have a fully formed biological male body because I did not go through puberty fully. I was the perfect target for bullies from kindergarten all the way to college. For all my life until now, I was a creature without shadow, a soul without a body. I existed, but I was not alive. So the condition, in case you don't know, is called gender dysphoria. It is one of the most stigmatized medical conditions. 1.5% of the general population are born transgender, and they are fundamentally different from cross-dressers. It is an inborn physiological rather than psychiatric condition. It has a death rate of 80%. Suicidal thoughts persisted throughout my adult life. I coped with gender dysphoria by becoming a workaholic. Death by overwork looked like a very attractive option, as was a staged accident. If I died, I thought no one would have to know my secret, or the problems emanating from me, which would affect my loved ones, would just go away. I was not planning on living long, and some of my friends picked up on it. They worried that someday Alexander, whom I'd like to think of as my twin brother, would just snap or break down. Truth be told, I so desperately wanted to live, but I dragged my feet each morning because I was forced to live a life that was not mine. Transitioning has not been easy. I seriously contemplated quietly leaving the academia and the world where too many people knew my annoyingly prominent twin brother. I wanted a fresh start and to get out. I just wanted my life back. I did not care for anything else. The path that leads to embodiment, unfortunately, is filled with sharp knives and shattered glasses that cut into my bare feet each and every step I take. Family, loved ones, and friends are holding my hands on both sides, but they could not lift me up, they could not carry me, they could not walk the path for me. There's no shortcut. I have to take each and every step on my own, no matter how painful. Looking back, I could see blood footprints all on the path. Looking forward, I see more glasses and knives on the path that stretches toward the horizon. But what matters is that I'm alive, it is real, embodied, lived in. I've been going through a second adolescence in my developing teen girl's body. There are blessings in disguise in my unique situation, as my doctor told me. An underdeveloped body ages slowly and allows the clinically induced puberty to work beautifully. I never had first-person dreams in my whole life, but I'm now having plenty of them, in full colors, as my true self, complete with smiles. It's just too bad that many of those dreams are girlish nightmares. It was as if my brain was trying to make sense of the radical changes happening to my body at a cellular level, and it's as if my brain is trying to catch up on a lost girlhood. Transitioning, of course, goes far beyond hormones and surgeries. In many ways, gender transition is similar to my experience of cultural assimilation when I immigrated to the country. Both involves some form of age regression. Just like a little girl, I had to quickly figure out how things work in the new land. With powerful clinical interventions, my body's development quickly outpaced my socialization, which contributed to the very strange experience of being legally an adult woman, but psychologically and physiologically a much younger girl. As my doctors reminded me, they could not make me a woman overnight. I have to grow up as a girl, just like others. Friends and families helped me. And sometimes when they look into my eyes, they see a deer in the spotlight. Voice therapy is another element of transitioning that literally took me back to the very beginning of speech, like a little girl learning to talk. We started with my posture, diaphragmatic breathing, humming, chanting, and warm-up sounds. We did all that before moving on to vowels, consonants, words, phrases. I became very self-conscious, especially on the phone. You can imagine it's a special challenge when your job involves talking in front of people and teaching. And there's no break. You can't take a break. You have to pay the bill. So here's another story. When Young T was planning this symposium, she sent an urgent email and asked me to call her. She hadn't seen me in person or heard my voice for more than 2 months. With great deal of trepidation, I eventually called. And she did not recognize me. We spent the first few minutes on the phone, beating around the bush like stand-up comedians. She got nervous and she could not figure out who I was. I was perplexed and really scared. And I thought, oh my God, I sounded terrible. Do I sound that bad? After I repeatedly stated my full name and former name, she finally recognized me. She could not stop apologizing, but I could not stop smiling because I finally realized it meant that my voice had changed so much since she last saw me. I was overcome by joy. It was a simple joy of being myself and being recognized as such. I'm so grateful to my clinicians who have worked magic. Socialization as a girl is a big part of this process. I found myself in that strange stage, as some of my friends know, of girly obsession with weight loss and body image, compounded by stage fright and self-deprecation, always blaming myself, even when I'm victimized. After I graduated from training bras, I stumbled through various bras trying to find a good fit. I was clumsy at drying and curling my hair and at changing my earrings. This may sound absurd, but it was a milestone for me when I finally felt that my figure is feminine enough to go swimming. I love swimming, I used to love swimming, and it felt so wonderful to be able to return the pool in my new body. I still have an adult's brain when it comes to work-related topics, but I only have a teen girl's body and level of life experience. I've learned to let go of my facade, let myself be guided by my girlfriends and doctors, and enjoy the bonding experience and enjoy the adventure. My partner Liana has been there every step of the way. Poor Liana. She sometimes has to put up with having now a whiny little girl in the house. Sometimes I wish there was a pause button for life. Don't we all want a pause button sometimes? I wish the world could wait for me to grow up, but I still have to go to work. I have to pretend that everything is business as usual, and there's nowhere to hide. There is no taking a break from the harsh reality of transitioning, just as you cannot take a break from breathing. I cannot take a break from being myself, being my true self. I must say that it is liberating to not have to be a professor all the time. I'm not a professor in a treating room. I'm not a professor when just chatting with my friends. I open myself up as a human being. And most recently with this eye-opening and most therapeutic trip to London that I took with my students. I learned with and from my students as we move to first-name basis. Socialization, of course, is a necessary evil that can easily power an individual. It is easier said than done that I can own the social space around me by spreading my arms or being bossy. It is hard to simultaneously blend in, which is the natural instinct, and to develop a unique identity. It is sometimes not up to an individual to construct her identity out of thin air. What we need to do is to reform the building blocks for femininity and masculinity and work with a powerful collective social unconscious. Those building blocks themselves are contaminated already, if you will. So transitioning, I would also like to mention, involves mourning and grieving. Grieving the death of my old persona. Liana sometimes misses Alexander. And I would pull my hair back and put on his old clothes, whatever we can find, and try to entertain her. But as time goes by, when I do that, it looks funny, it looks silly, as if I'm a clown in very badly clothes. One day, Liana burst into tears and said, "Stop, you're not him." We would hug each other and cry on the sofa. All we have now are each other. I felt particularly helpless because I could not produce Alexander. I'm unable to impersonate him. The moment clinical treatment started, he began to fade away, never to be found. He had to die for me to live. But it is easy to mourn his passing when part of him is alive in me. So I promised to Liana to never stop flapping my wings. I promised to honor his legacy, which is why I'm here today. I've learned a number of things as I pursue a full life as a racial and gender minority. I work hard to find a voice of my own, physically and metaphorically. I try to carve out a corner for myself in a noisy room of the lively dinner party that is Mama's life. Literature helped me to find my own way of telling stories. As I became an immigrant, I worked on eliminating my accent in an effort to turn foreign shores into home turf. As I transitioned to a girl, I was rebooted and had to start from scratch because I literally did not have a voice at the beginning. The second thing I learned is to go all in. To go all in if you want to achieve or change anything in life. Jump right in. Start swimming. The water may be cold, but standing by the pool would only earn us regret later in life. I remember even at my second semester at Stanford, I was scared to death when I was assigned to be a TA for a big Shakespeare class taught by a renowned professor. I thought I should turn down the opportunity and wait until my English was impeccable. I'm glad I did not wait on it. I learned new and useful tricks on the job. For my gender transition, I also gave it everything I had and shared this strange but rewarding journey with everyone. I now live every day as if it is my last day on Earth. The third thing I learned was to look fear in its eyes and part ways with my old habits, old mode of existence, old comfort zone. I kept at it despite all the naysayers. This is the only way to move forward. Fear and social imposition has unfortunately governed many lives. We are on borrowed time and we don't have the luxury of living someone else's dream. When my time is up, I want to be able to say that I have pursued a full life, a life that is raw, a life that is passionate and not scripted. The fourth thing I learned is trust in others. I did not know how to put myself in others' hands, and I felt deeply ashamed when my friends showed me their capacity for empathy. When I came out last year, I was so worried about being rejected and humiliated by friends and students from countries that I thought were conservative, such as Pakistan and China. They turned out to be my biggest cheerleaders and closest friends. The last thing I learned is that we have to embrace difference as we advocate for equality. We have failed if our society only takes a woman seriously when she emulates men, by leaning in and by showing up in the boardroom in black pantsuits. We have failed if our society only considers a group of people to be the model minority when they act white or emulate whiteness. Equality should not be founded on the myth of sameness. So I arrived late at the party of life, but I'm trying to make the best of it. It won't be easy, for I still have an ocean to traverse, even though I have made it to the beach. I'm learning to enjoy the view along the way rather than being so fixated on the destination. I'm grateful to have old and new friends as conversation partners on our journey, and among them, of course, Yang Bertrand, Jonathan Xu, who unfortunately is not here, Daniel the Whisper Blair, Patty Zhu, Erica Lee, Miao Chun Wei, Catherine Bradshaw, Haley May, Melissa Sturman, Amy Leon, Dr. Linda Siegfried from GW Speech and Hearing Clinic, Patricia Parker, my mentor at Stanford, and Liana's talents. Marian Ali has been a constant source of comfort and inspiration, ever so sensitive and amazingly understanding. Liana, my partner for life. You're everything I mean everything in my life. To all of you, when I count my blessings, I count you twice. You are the reason why I have made it this far. For all my life, I've been looking for a place to call home. I've now been through a sea change, and I'm finally home. Thank you.
Alexa is willing to entertain
First of all, I would like to thank you, Alexa, not only for the episode moving talk, but for always being a role model. I think that in general, people fail to acknowledge their true self or even their shortcomings. And and they tend to shy away from telling family members and those around them. And seeing you embrace your true identity in the face of many obstacles and hardships is very inspiring and has taught everyone to be brave and courageous no matter what. Your continued bravery, resilience, and perseverance throughout your entire journey is indeed exemplary. As a student and now a close friend of yours, we have often ruminated over transitioning and how it has impacted you. In your love letter to Alexander, you mention, and I quote, "I have never felt more alive. Simply to live a coherent life used to be an unattainable and distant dream. Not anymore. Life is colorful, raw, unscripted, full of vibe and surprises. Thank you for giving me a new lease on life." Is there ever a sense of vulnerability when you think of Alexander? Is there something more that you would say to him as Alexa? And now the question is, how do you keep moving? I know that you mentioned mourning plays some part in it, but how do you personally deal with gender regression, with medical changes and the pains of acceptance and socialization that follow transitioning?
Thank you so much, Mary. These are wonderful, wonderful questions. So the letter that she's referring to was this. When Yana and I were mourning the passing of Alexander, one day I just had to write it down. You know, writing is really therapeutic, so I wrote a letter. A love letter to the past. I was writing from 2014. So I don't know where it is. Maybe wandering up there somewhere in the past, alone, and asked him what the weather's like up there. Well, I have many things to say to him, I suppose. Liana and I are both grateful at a real crisis. I almost killed myself last year. I'm glad that Alexander dragged me to the doctors, assembled an entire medical team to save me, and so on. It's very complicated. I suppose he was barely existing in his final days, because he's orchestrating my rebirth, but also his own funeral. In fact, a few months into transition, one of the nightmares I mentioned was I dreamt that I was at funeral, and it's actually full of color. I was so happy. I was the kind of the only evening girl chomping on the ice cream, and all. While everybody was there, actually a coffin. And I did walk up and saw Alexander, and I felt a sense of detachment. It's a very, very strange experience. I have good friends who ask, "Are you the same person?" Now that's philosophical, that's very deep. Because, of course, we all have many personas, right? Imagine if you lose weight or if you have radical change in your life, divorce. You would not want to be associated with your former life, your former self. That's kind of how I felt. So there's a process of dissociation, distancing, and then I guess right now, where I stand, the past life is so, the only connection is on an academic CV, right? And it felt so distant, it felt like a stranger. And I'm sure Liana feels the same way as well. It's very strange. It's both reassuring, exciting, and a little bit sad. The more distance there is, the kind of more melancholic sometimes will grow. My regret is that I was not courageous enough. We didn't kind of, I really want to do a brag book one day, but there's no material. I'm very happy with pictures, lots of pictures. But then to do a brag book, you need before and after, so we need to go back and find before pictures, and we didn't really chronicle kind of final days, not in words, not in pictures, nothing, just, kind of quite cruel, just wanting him to go away, to die. What's the second part?
How do you deal with everything? How
Yes.
do you keep moving?
Yes, the regression part. It was scary at the beginning. Happy, I'm gonna go, but no, not really. And then, I've learned to embrace it. It's kind of fun to have a second childhood and adolescence. Starting from scratch, out of things, speech therapy especially. it's not about dressing up, it's not about, learning what to, of course that's kind of part of it, but for me at least, that's not the main thing. It's really more about intuition. For example, trying to figure out if I should be vigilant or if people are being sweet to me out of goodwill. An old guy, random guy, they offered a seat to me on the metro. That's great, that's nice, I thought. But should I be more careful? Should I just, so I think for some people, they would have a lifetime of practice in those situations, and it would take me longer to figure out. Sometimes I'm too naive. I just Tatiana says, dangerously naive. You just, hey, you don't even know that guy's checking you out, that kind of thing. And it's just walking blind in the world without knowing things that would accompany moving through space in such a body. Perfect. But thank you so much for the question.
Unfortunately, I can entertain only one more question. So who has a very urgent and, I guess, yes, okay, we need it to ask you. Yes.
Hello, I love your dress. I must address you. I'm one of those people who is bad at, decorating myself, but I know enough to tell you, you look wonderful. So, my question to you, I'm a young man with lots of curiosity, so, bear with me here. You told us something about, you making that gender assimilation and as well as cultural assimilation because you came from Taiwan. I'm from South Korea, Gangnam Style. I'm actually from the Gangnam. So, if you come to Korea, you give me a call, I'll guide you through. Okay? But anyway, I would like to ask you, what's the similarity and difference that is about gender assimilation and cultural assimilation?
Thank you for this excellent question. I think they are really similar, both involved, I would say. So, I mentioned the medical condition of gender dysphoria and how cross-dressers are not transgender because they don't do anything about their voice. They don't live in this life 24/7. So both immigration and gender transition I think involves learning a language in a foreign land. And we all know, I think especially Amy can attest, speech and language really impact and defines your life because you have to move through it and you have to use your voice every day. So that's one similarity. The other is to figure out the things that people take for granted, intuition, like this is how things are in this land. It'll start out as a strange land and you eventually become your home turf. So there's a process of embodiment and kind of owning it, owning the space and actually owning your own body as well. There are a lot of derogatory terms, something like foggy, I'm sure you've heard of, fresh off the boat, right? Early phase of gender transition, you are fresh off the boat, and it's actually very scary. It's also a safety issue for a lot of people. Every day, every single day in the United States, trans women of color, at least one trans woman of color is killed, is murdered. That's because they're seen as trans. And so you can see the importance of passing. You don't want to stand out. If you stand out, you can imagine what kind of harassment. Now I get harassed, but for different reasons. Some others are less lucky. They may require a lot of surgery, especially on their face, simply to avoid being murdered when they walk on the street. So I think that's the similarities and differences. I would say both are, well, scary processes, but great rewards. It's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime journey, and just go with the flow. So thank you very much for coming today.
Okay, so next, I know we are a little late. Next is our own Kowin DC sister, and her name is Young-Suk Victoria. So I call her just Victoria, but many people know her as So Young-Suk Sazili. She's a very famous plastic surgeon, and one of the very few early women doctors, because this field is really a male profession, and she had to fight a lot of prejudices and hurdles, and there she is. She is very respected and successful businesswoman and doctor. So I will give the baton. The new panel, please, panelists come out. I hope everybody's there.
If I may have the panelists come up, and if there are any water bottles, is it possible that they could get some, please? Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. After Alexa Wong spoke, I was sitting in my chair like, oh, holy crap, what am I going to talk about? The only thing that I can say in common is that I am also an English literature major. 20th century Joyce James was mine, but other than that, her passion for life is endless, and I'm just here. So I commend you as a physician who have been involved in transgender patients. It is not as easy as she made it. It is truly a heartbreaking journey that involves every single step of the way. Your family, your spouse, your partner, if they have children. It is truly an honor to have someone who has maintained her international presence and in academia in face of adversity. And even as a physician, it is the least spoken aspect of medicine, because somehow we have so much adversity against it and so much prejudice. And if you think you're prejudiced because you're an Asian, it's a whole different ballgame. So I really give you applause for what you're going through. I thank you for being a woman and for representing women, and we thank you. I truly, personally thank you for continuing to succeed in your field, and I just want to give you another applause. When Dr. Young-hee and I spoke, we spoke about mentorship. And one thing that we talk about mentorship is how, in my generation, women were not very kind to other women in their field. Many of us will say, my mentor was so-and-so, but most of them would be about men. So I'm not trying to bring religion into this or anything like that, but this is a standard story that we hear all the time. Everybody knows Billy Graham, yes? Okay. So we always hear about how Billy Graham was converted into Christianity because of Mordecai Ham. Then Mordecai Ham was converted because he got salvation through a baseball player by the name of Tony Sunday, who got converted because of Wilbur Chapman, who got converted because of Dwight Moody. It goes on and on into the 1800s. Now, my history is that, who is my mentor? I had someone who was really great professor when I was at Amherst College, Lisa Raskin, but it was always a struggle because she would play one of her female students against me all the time. So I didn't know who I was supposed to be because the rules changed. And then she had bazillion guys out there who basically said, oh, he's the one who's going to win the award. And every day I'd go to my lab and speak to my Sprung-Golly rats and go, okay, I didn't make it today. I wasn't the favorite. So it was always, it seems to be some sort of a competition. Then when I went to general surgery, I started, that was a time when general surgery was quote, a pyramid program. So we started with 63 people. There were 4 women. 2 were transitioning in going through a general surgery to go to other fields. And then there was 2 of us. And you would whittle down until you graduated for 4. So when a male makes it as a chief resident, he is great. He commands, he's a leader, he's great. When I made it to general surgery, because back then when you were on a pyramid program, it was something called decade or Savastin was the term. Meaning general surgery director Duke was Savastin, and it literally took 10 years for you to graduate. So our program was 5-year general surgery program. So in my year, I was the first one. So what did I hear? I must have slept with the director. I must have had somebody, tons of money somewhere in that never Asian land that no one knew about. And maybe I donated millions. Now mind you, my dad and my mother, we were truly immigrants with 6 kids, with 4 in college all at once, 2 in med school, 1 doing master's, 1 in doing PhD. We didn't have money. I'm a hard-working person. So those are the things that we hear about. And the reason I'm so thankful for this leadership is because we have to start having mentors for women, where we have a trend like this, and we don't hear stories like, you know, this doctor made it because she was working so hard, she was going after males as their as their mentors, and we need to stop that break, and this is what the seminar is about. Okay, we need to start saying, oh, I don't know, I met Christina Shen over there, so I'm going to pick her name. I want Christina to stand up here maybe 20, 30 years from now and say, Jane so-and-so was my mentor. Jane was mentored by Sheila so-and-so, and Sheila so-and-so was mentored. So we have a history. It is not about Penny, who became the first scientist recognized as women by guys as not being emotional. We're emotional beings, it's okay. We're not hysterical. Emotions don't mean you're hysterical. So this seminar is really about that. So what is mentorship? I actually went to the dictionary, and it came out from the book, basically where Telemachus had a mentor named Mentor in the book Odyssey. So we started using that name, and here I am trying to talk about literature when I have that wrong here, so bear with me. So a mentor is someone who engages in a mentorship. It's a relationship where a more experienced person mentors a less experienced person. But here's the kicker of the definition. However, true mentoring is when there is ongoing relationship. It's not just answering questions here and there. It's an ongoing relationship of learning, dialogue, and challenge. That's what mentorship is. So why are we mentoring? Because we want you young people out there, and we have a lot of men. Thank you, Mr. Joe, who carried my knee scooter because of my fracture. Exercise is not your friend, as you can see from my leg. Because we want you guys to be leaders in your field. So what is leadership? So I looked up. So if you have, like, so these are the CEOs of the biggest companies that tell you what leadership means. Basically what leadership is defined by male. These are all male leaders. And I have true respect for them because I can truly say my mentor was not a woman. It was Dr. Ruber. And God bless him because he took me under his wings and he treated me as a father, and here I am. But male leadership, everything is all about the same. It's taking people who are not superstars and making them superstars in your fashion. Taking a group of people and using your character to shape them and form them to do your work. Okay? Now, I would like to think that all of young people are out there, and when you become leaders, that you will take people and give them your advice and knowledge, not to shape them the way you want them to be, but for them to have the power to explore their lives. The power to say, I'm a leader because I own that leadership, and I want you to go and brand your own, and I am not going to be threatened because you have your own brand. Use me, but step on, move forward, and shape this world. So that's what I felt like this seminar should be. Mentoring people, sharing your knowledge, having an ongoing relationship to shape the future leaders. Because I don't know what leadership means in my life. All I can say is that we can be here to guide you guys, so you have your own success stories, and that you share. So what I am going to say is, okay, how do we get to become those leaders? Do you take, if you have something bad happen to you, what is your reaction on that day? What is your reaction a year from now? And what is your reaction 10 years from now? Because we're all shaped by memories. I can dig deep inside, and I can even remember that one time that my sister made me do something for her, promised to give me something, and I didn't get it. I still remember that. Okay? We all have something idiosyncratic that you don't want to dig out, but it's there, and it shapes who we are. But what do we do when the world falls apart? What do you do to yourself? Commonly, this is what men do. It wasn't my fault. I'm okay. I move on. But we've been trained as females to say it's our fault. It's because we lived out of norm. We weren't supposed to. You know, even now when I go to church, my mother looks me up and down to make sure I'm dressed properly because I played soccer. I mean, who plays soccer when you're a Korean young girl? No one does. You know, I had that gene with the comb behind my back. So what do you do? Because what's your reaction that day is not the problem. What's your reaction a year from that is not the problem. But it is a problem if you do not have the right reaction 10 years from now or 20 years from now, because you don't want that bad thing to bring you down. So one thing that we always forget is that you have to be good to yourself. You're your own advocate. You have to forgive yourself for what you've done, because that's the only way that you can move on. And the reason that we're constantly asked to forgive is not for somebody else that you're forgiving, it is for yourself. Because you don't want that baggage 10 years from now or 20 years from now. Okay. If I had to constantly say to myself, I'm not good enough, people are saying that I only made it because, quote unquote, I slept with the boss, I would never move on. Okay? It is about forgiveness. It is about letting that go, working through it, so you can go to your path 10 years from now. And I think that is one key that women didn't get it, and I'm hoping that you young women and men will get. You have to forgive yourself for your faults. You have to forgive yourself for your mistakes. Own up. So these are some of the questions that I hope today that my panel, my wonderful panel, who I begged and were graciously here, will answer. What do you see? You have to know what you want. So, what do you seek in a mentor? What do you like about yourself? Because that's a question everybody asks. Any residency, and I interview students, they ask you, what do you like about yourself? What is your problem? What's your fault? What is your dream? Okay. What do you think could change? Because you're going to be a different person 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Not so different, no one knows this, but you're going to be a different person than who you are now. And that is a good thing. You have to embrace that. All memories and all experiences are what you need to shape you. Because when you have nothing to stand on, all the things that you had to go through, all your bad memories that you actually went through, are your stepping stones, are your foundations that you stand on, so you don't float away in the waters. The other thing is, who are your friends? What do you want from your friends? What are your relationships? What do you give? What do you get back? What are you willing to give up? Because in this life, it's about not just getting, but it's about giving up. The question is, what is it that you're willing to give up? You cannot give up your soul. You cannot give up the fact that you were made to succeed and to be happy. And you were made with love. You cannot give up on those. But you have to know what you can give up to get what you want. It's a give and take. And what do you do when you see somebody else succeed? What is your reaction? Do you get down? Do you say, okay, let me change my course and figure out what I did wrong and let me go up? What do you do? And what is your dream? What are you passionate about? Because it's all about passion. If you become a physician, I feel like the only thing that I did well, that I succeeded in my life, was to become a plastic surgeon. I started piano, that lasted about 5 years. I played viola, that lasted about 15 years. I played soccer, I had to give that up when I became a resident. The only thing that I've done consistently and worked toward was to become a plastic surgeon. So what are you passionate about? You can't be jack of all trades. You have to be passionate about something, okay? So when I say that, what is your dream? I'm not just saying that because you have to have a dream. You can't just float. Life doesn't just give you things. You have to work for it. It's hard work. Like Dr. Wong said, I have to make my living. No one's going to pay me. I have to pay my bills. I have a 2000 car that I'm trying to get through for the next 5 years because it's not fit in my budget. And I'm supposed to be this plastic surgeon, but we all have a budget, right? So here is what I say. People keep saying, okay, well, how do you dream? What does dream mean? Dream means that you have to figure out what it is that you want to do in 10 years. What is your goal in 10 years and 20 years? It may not come true, but at least you need to have an idea where you want to be. And then you have to have realistic goals, okay? Your realistic goals are things that you would do now towards it and what you could potentially do in the future. So if the future goals are still goals. And then you have to energize yourself. Dreams don't fall from skies, you make it. Okay, God gives you love, unconditional love, but you have to energize yourself to get there. You have to be your own advocate. There's a story in AOL, and I'm an old dinosaur, that basically said this man wrote an article saying that the worst thing he ever did in his life was lose his girlfriend. His girlfriend, in retrospect, was the perfect, beautiful, smart, and he met her 15 years later and realized she was the perfect one. But every time he met her, she would say, my roommate is so much prettier, my roommate is so much smarter, my roommate is so much... And he saw this woman who he initially thought was ugly, but ended up having an affair, because all he heard all the time was how great the other person was. There's a difference between giving confidence. There's a difference between complimenting others that bring yourself down. You are your own advocate. Like I said, be good to yourself. Love yourself, forgive yourself, because you are your own worst enemy, but you are your own best friend. Okay. And then part of DREAM, I'm up to M, you have to be a messenger to the world. It is not just about you. You have to be a messenger about this. And people say, what is success? In my opinion, I was sitting down last night, actually 4 o'clock this morning, Dr. Young gave me her disease, I can't seem to sleep now. You have to secure your identity. Part of being a leader is having an ideal about yourself, having character, being ethical, being moral. Okay. Being ethical, moral, and having character does not mean you give up. That is something where you get for yourself that no one can take away from you. Okay. And then you have to utilize your talents. You have talents, every one of us do. There's some people who may not do anything, but the minute they walk into their room, everybody just seems to be happy. That is your talent. Capture your opportunities. So many missed opportunities. Because you can't decide, because you don't know who you are, you don't know what your future is. Capture your opportunities. Then create that opportunity into your own signature. You are a unique person. Even if you're an identical twin, there's a difference in your DNA. You're a different person at cellular level. Take me, I'm a doctor. Trust me, I'm a doctor in that one. At cellular level, you're a different human being, different identity. Educate yourself. Education is power, information is power. You cannot get there when you can't speak the language. You're going to speak with the CEOs, you have to learn their language. You're going to be a plastic surgeon, you have to speak their language. The lawyers, you have to have your own language. Educate yourself. Then spread your wings out. Go beyond your limit. Don't stay in your background. Okay. I challenge every single Korean student here, don't just stay in the realm of the Korean students. Spread your wings out. You are not going to get our race into the spotlight just staying there. You have to educate the world who we are and what we are about. Okay. We're one of the most creative things that God has ever created. There's what's the difference between an animal and human? Okay. It's because we can actually create. There's not a single animal who can actually go beyond their scope and create, but we can. So create, go beyond your limits. Go places that you would never think of. Go do things that you never thought you would do. Then the lastly of success, SUCCESS, you have to share yourself. It's about sharing, because if you don't share your information, they don't know who you are. We are made to be in a community. Share yourself. Okay? Share your information. Because the enemy, I call it the enemy of your soul. Your enemy of your soul is trying to constantly say, okay, for me, you're too short. Okay, you're not pretty enough. You don't have the strength. No one likes you. You're not good enough surgeon. They want you to be alone in a dark room. We were not meant to be in the dark. There's a reason why we love the sun. We are meant to be in the sun. So share your world with others. Don't be limited thinking I'm not good enough. You are good enough. You were carefully and wonderfully made with love and care. Don't forget, you were made carefully and wonderfully into who you are, each one of you. Okay? So share yourself. The other thing is, what inspires you? You have to have an inspiration every day. You can have passion, but passion comes and goes. But you have to have inspiration. When you have a tank and you're constantly pouring yourself out, and there's nothing on the bottom, then you have no soul, you have nothing. You have to be able to fill that tank back, so you are a whole tank. So what inspires you? What inspires me? God inspires me every day. God inspires me. I can't inspire myself because I'm a little weakling. But everybody has something that inspires them. What inspires you? Because it is that inspiration that gets you to be passionate about who you are. Okay. So, with all that, I have a group of women who have been passionate in their pursuit of success. And I'm going to, have Dr. Youngie introduce them. And at the end of the panel, hopefully you'll have time to ask them questions. I'm very, very proud of this panel because they come from all different walks of life. And thank you, Dr. Youngie, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you so much for coming and sharing your Saturday.
Thank you very much. In the interest of time, let's actually go right into the panel discussion. And please read their bios. They are printed. They are far, far superior. We had such limited space. They are all authors and leaders, and they are very impressive bunch of people here. So why don't you, do you want to?
So we have, our first speaker is going to be Suzanne Dowd-Galley. I'm going to limit their talk to about 5 minutes because they are worth asking your questions. So they will each get about 2 to 3 minutes of questions. Suzanne Dowd-Galley is truly a good friend of mine who I don't get to see often. She's a bit of a superstar. She's an ENT surgeon specializing in facial plastic with a PhD and 3 kids, taking care of her mom, and practice in both Virginia and DC. So here she is, and a philanthropist.
Very good kowin2014 member.
Yes.
I have to. Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege to be here. And I'd like to thank Dr. Wang, Dr. Kim Renaud, Dr. Suh for organizing the panel, all my co-panelists, and my Kowin sisters. And I'd also like to thank all the attendees because it's great that you came out to participate today. Diversity and inclusion is one of my favorite topics. And I have my own personal mission of galvanizing the Asian American community into becoming active. My name is Suzanne Dowd. I'm a surgeon, as Dr. Suh said. I'm very active in the Asian American community and in the community at large. I am Korean American. My mother was born in Pyongyang, and she came to the States in the 60s. My father's the son of German and Irish immigrants, and I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. I led a fairly sheltered life. I went to all-girls school my whole life. And then I went on to women's college, and I graduated from Smith with a degree in biochemistry and German literature. So then I went to medical school, and when I went to med schools were about 50% women. My school is no different, and of the women in my class, perhaps 10% of us were Asian. However, when I went on to my surgical training, I was often the only woman. Even when I did my fellowship in facial plastics, of the 32 in my cohort in North America, 2 of us were women, and I was always the only Asian American woman. I do believe I was held to a different standard, but I accepted that challenge, and I made it my goal to always produce more than my male colleagues. So I wrote the most papers, did the most presentations, the most nasal cases, and I bore the most children because my 3 girls came to the world during those days. My K-mom, as I call her, always drilled into us how important it is to present yourself well. So whether it was your manners, your table manners, or how you performed, basically I wasn't allowed to come home with less than 100%, and I was supposed to bring home the extra credit as well. Move over and true. My mother was the original Tiger Mom. But her point was, not just for myself, but she never wanted anyone to look at us and think we weren't well behaved because we were Korean American, or we couldn't do well. She wanted people to look at us and say, oh wow, they're Korean American and they work really hard and they study really hard. And it wasn't just about us, it was about representing our family and representing all Koreans. And I took this advice to heart, and I shared it with my kids, and I've also shared it with colleagues. I recall when I was a resident, there was a junior resident who was struggling, and he messed up, and I don't mean just patient disasters, I mean stupid things like not renewing his license, not paying his board dues, not submitting an abstract on time, those kind of things. So one day I took him aside and I said, Dwayne, today I'm going to speak to you as the only Asian American woman in this program. You've got to stop messing up, because it's not all about you. And they're watching you, and you're representing all your brothers and sisters, and every other African American kid that wants to come to this program. So you're paving the way for them, so get it together. And years later, he told me that he took that advice to heart and it served him well. So I don't believe I've had the typical immigrant family experience. After all, my father's a Caucasian lawyer, and my uncle came as an exchange professor in surgery to UPenn. But what I did experience was growing up Asian in a very white society. There were not 250,000 Koreans in this area when I was growing up. I was always the only Asian in my class until I went to college. People always ask me, where are you from? No, where are you really from? And you may have a hard time believing it, looking at me now. But there was a time when people would ask us, are you Chinese? Because that was the catch-all ethnicity in those days. But, and my brother would say, well, I'm not, but she is. So all kidding aside, I do feel that even though we're a large population, one of the fastest growing populations, with a lot of women in medical school, when I look at the leadership in my academies, the leadership does not reflect the population. And even in a lot of my volunteer organizations, it's the same thing. I interviewed candidates for the American College of Surgeons, and a while back I went to the conference room where I was going to interview, and I walked in and there's a group of surgeons waiting there. They were all male, all white guys. And one of them said to me, just go wait in the hallway, we'll call you when we need you. And it occurred to me that it didn't even occur to him that I was his peer. So I explained what I was doing there. And it's experiences like that which make me realize there is some type of invisible barrier. And it's our job to break it. So to that end, any opportunity I get to come to the table, to bring my voice to the table as an Asian American woman, I take it. I feel it's my duty, I feel it's my responsibility. And I have a laundry list of boards I serve on and committees I serve on, and I assure you, it's not because I like to go to meetings. I don't actually. But when I'm called to duty, I do it, and I do it because it's my responsibility to you, to all of my Asian American colleagues, especially my female colleagues, and our daughters too. So today, I implore all of you to find your voice. When you find your voice, you'll realize that with your voice, you'll find power. There'll be leadership. And no matter what your field, what's your interest, even if it's the PTA one day at your kid's school, and I've done the school thing too. I was a class mom, I wasn't very good at it, but I still did it. But anyway, be there, be the voice, and let them know we're here. Thank you.
I'm going to let all the speakers speak because of time, and we'll do questions at the end. Our next speaker is Gina Kim. Gina Kim is the one person I'd like to be in this world. She does amazing things. She has organized a group of people. She's a lawyer. To head Vision Care USA that goes to different countries and gives vision to people. She's the head in multiple organizations that serve the Korean community. I'm really excited that she's here. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that we're short of time, so I'll just do my talk and make it short. If I were given a wish come true, one wish, I thought about it, and it might be that I want to go back 20 years. I'm 45 now. I think 25 or 20 would be a good year for me to start over. And I say that because last 20 years, I worked really hard, running as fast as I could, and at this point in my life, I realized what I've done well and what I've done not so well. And I think if I were to do it again, I would do a much better job. For me, if I were to go back 20, 25 years, it would be, I would set my goal as specifically as possible and as realistically as possible. Now, it could be a shallow goal, such as I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm age whatever. Or it could be a goal like I want to help and make a difference in 10 people's lives. But it needs to be as specific as possible goal, and sort of like a golf game. You know you have to hit the ball in a certain number of strokes to get into that hole, but it's not about hitting the ball as hard as you could or as fast as you could. It's about going there in order. You know, after the first hole, it's the second hole and the third hole and finishing the game. And so had I known that, I think the choices that I've made would be based on, would this choice help me get to that goal or help me go further away from the goal? And I think it wouldn't be so randomly made. A lot of choices I've made it randomly, just because what I felt like at the time or what the situation called for. But if I have a specific goal in mind, those choices would be much easier. And the second, what I would do differently is, it's a war. Life is really like a war. You know, you're constantly trying to gain territory and not giving up, and you're constantly trying to advance towards that goal. And I would learn to pick my battle. And knowing now that you don't have to win at everything. I mean, what's important is not winning how many battles, but actually winning the war. And had I had that wisdom, for the last 20 years, I think my life would have been much easier and much more fulfilling. A lot of things, we're so black and white when we're young, but you just need to have one black and white thing. Things that you cannot give up, you cannot compromise, whether it's your belief or your value or, whatever it is. And the rest can be gray. And, like raising a kid especially is true. There's tons of things that my 12-year-old boy does that I don't like. But I can't nag him about every little thing. So I let him have his way in most of the things. Like 9 out of 10, I don't like it, I let him have it. But when I do put my foot down on one thing that's important to me, he understands that there's no way I'm gonna be talked into for that. And I think knowing that as a young student is really important. So as you go through life, you can lose a lot of times. And it's okay because you're losing to win the big one. And also the last one is, life is like, for me, it's like baking. Like there's stages and seasoning time. And it's okay sometimes that there's time to run as hard as you could. There's times to actually stroll and walk and enjoy the scenery. And there's also time to just sit and wait for the dough to rise, wait for the oven to heat up. And it's okay that it's not all happening right now. And it's okay that it's taking longer than other people. Because you can dream about and smell the baking cookies, or you can dream about what it's going to taste like at the end. So what I'm going to tell you right now is, I know that, as a young student, and I did too, like, there's so much. You have to be a superwoman, especially a Korean woman. You have to be a career woman. You have to be a daughter-in-law, which is huge. You have to be a mom, a wife, and a daughter, and you can't do all that well. And that's the reality. you know? So prioritize and walk toward that, that's on top. And let the others just sort of, you know, take its time. Sometimes you can be the best mom and there's time for you to be best, you know, career woman. There's time for you to be a best daughter-in-law, but you can't do all that all at once. So don't be too hard on yourself. Relax, enjoy the scenery, and smell the coffee every morning. Thank you.
Our speaker is Sonia Filchek. Her life story, when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. She is the IT specialist with the government, and she's the information highway. And if we know what she does, she may have to tell us kind of things. So I'm very happy to have her.
Good morning. I'm grateful to be here and so inspirational. It's the whole room. And Dr. Wang, it touched my heart. I cried in the back. So I don't know how can I move forward, but I'm going to try my best. My name is Sonia Filchek, and I'm an IT and telecommunications specialist at the State Department. Based on my bio, prior I worked for the Air Force. When I was young, my dream was, I was growing up in country. I was a farm girl until going to high school because we did not have a high school, so I have to get the countryside. Then I became city girl. When I grew up, I have 12 siblings. So I was number 4, and I was the most clumsiest one. So I get always attention by parents. So all the jealous come from my siblings, but they are okay. I grew up okay. And my dad, he was a government employee, so he has been talking about what's like American children, how parents raising them instead of Korean parents, they protect them until they get married, or they said, my dad says, as soon as 18, American parents try to give them, they can stand up for themselves. But I didn't know until 18. My dad didn't tell me, but I said, oh, I can stand up for myself too, like American children. So high school time, we have 20 children. My mom passed away when I was 13. We had 2, 3, 5, 6, and so many older children. So I thought it's responsible to, maybe I can do like American children. I can grow up, like stand up for myself. I can go nice school and work during the daytime. So I went Kunsan. I didn't know anybody there. I told my dad, Dad, just to get one room for me. Then I'll move from there. He said, you're too young. I said, no, I'm not. When it was really my dad says, if you need it ever, you cannot moving forward, just let me know. I said, yes, I will. And then I did it, but many times I entered that I cannot move on, but I decided if I ask one time, I'm going to ask continue or never success in my life. So I counted last night, I've been working 8 different jobs during the high school, up to second year. I was like, wow, because you are a student, I got paid $15 per month, many different places. So I have to, they try to get like an internship, you know, they try to get free. And I was starving that time, a lot of times, but I was moving forward and then continued to move and change the job. And finally, I started working home base, Busan Air Force Base, deliver newspaper. Somebody introduced. Then I started making, wow, $150, from $15 to $150. And then later on, 2 ladies quit. I made a whole, I just make efforts to deliver whole base. I saw a woman, all the Korean women, they were typists. Secretary were typists, they typing like, I cannot even read handwriting. So I said, my goal is, when I go to college, I can be like that. That was my goal. So after I graduated high school, I didn't go to college for 1 year because I thought so. Why I didn't think about if I can study hard, I can be scholarship, right? I didn't think about it, nobody even, I didn't know. So when you stay, I practice English a little bit and then typing at the library. So after I became, I'm going to college, nighttime college also. As soon as I went to college, then I tested English and typing. I passed. I became what I want. Then one day I had a computer in my desk, and then my printer was broken. So I called. The lady says, "Lady Kim, real Lady Kim." She brought this cup for me. So this one is 1981. I'm still carrying, always in front of me. So Korean lady inspired my life. Yeah, inspired my life. And if she was man, came to fix my printer, if I would watch. I may not even. I watched. I didn't even really take it serious about it because it's a man's job. A woman came. She inspired me. I never get to told her I want to be like her, but after I got this one, I want to be like her. If she can do it, I can do it too. I asked her, where are you from? Because I don't know, woman is always working administrative job. She said, she's from Seoul. I said, is there many Korean women? It's in IT. She said, few of them. I said, okay then. I'll be one of them one day. So after that, I never got to call computer problem because I fixed it myself. So because if I want to be a computer person, I got to practice and do stuff. So Korean woman inspired my life. That's why I want everybody, whatever you do, you don't know who you inspire. They may not tell you now, but someday they'll reach their goal. They thank her. I never met her again, but she's always inside my heart, thanking her. And then I've been in IT, I volunteer to teach other people because I like everybody to have a better life than they have now. So I know a lot of other jobs is good for everybody, but since I did an IT job, I know IT is you can start any time because technology continues to moving. So I always encourage students, anyone, say, what would you like to be? Do you want to do something else? You are not happy. I will help you if you are interested in IT, or if you don't know, if you want to try. Then I've been helping out that way. And then time goes by, Americans, they become managers. I cannot be continue to technician. You know, I gotta be my age. I gotta bring up where I am. Should be like a normal American. But I know I have an English problem. I was so afraid that if I become American manager, I may not be a manager because I want everybody to be working hard like me. You know, if they don't, I don't know what to do. I cannot fire them. So when I went to one day library, I thought, don't fire them, fire them up. Wow, I can do this. So I got encouraged by this book. I never read the inside. I don't hear. There is more letters. I don't like to read books, but all I hear is the book. So it's just buy and subject, just looking at. Yes, I do not have to fire anybody. I know how to encourage them. So fire them also. That's why I applied the government management job 10 years ago, and then worked with so remarkable, talented people, and supporting the State Department, domestic, and I used to provide support for the worldwide, like visa application. American citizens, passports, all that applications that pass through my team before going to the live. And now it's all the telephones, wireless, and network, all the remarkable intelligence people working with me to success for the department and for the America and for the world. And I'm so glad to be here today. And also, we have some information in the back. And also I'm a volunteer recruiter. So if you have anything in the federal government or any other places, let me know. I can help. Thank you.
Thank you. That was truly a speech on 3 eyes. Imagine, institute, instigate. We now have kowin2014 KDO, who is a fellow at Brookings Institute. She's an analyst for the defense. And she has a PhD from one of my most favorite universities in the United States, Berkeley. And we are very excited that she's here to join us.
Thank you. We actually got about tons of questions from the Victoria, because when I attend the conference, always organizers think about the theme questions. So I prepared the questions very faithfully, and she gave us 10 minutes, and then after she spoke very long, she said all the panelists speak 5 minutes.
Sometimes.
And I know that the Sone and everybody, I know Sone very well, very beautifully prepared her remarks, and so I said, just speak as long as you can speak. I can speak in 2 minutes and you can have lunch. So anyway, because of you got all this personal story, everybody has a personal story, forget about all that sentimental journey everybody went through. And I must say that I have to give you some, just like lecture style. She asked me, what is the definition of leader? If you want to be a leader, you want to think about it. My definition is person who is willing to protect working team, like Sone, juniors, subordinates in times of disaster, calamitous events, and bad situation. Leader can protect in good time, but bad time coming, I'm in charge. Japanese go too far, they commit suicide, which is too bad. But in Japan, leaders commit suicide, not the junior man working in the lower man, okay? Second definition, person who knows how to delegate the authority to others. Leaders say, I'm the best, I'm the most bright, I'm the most handsome, I'm the richest, I am the best degree, and you shut up. And then you do whatever I tell you to do it. That's not leader at all. There is a dictator and the brutalistic, like a Kim Jong-un style leader. You don't want to be that kind, right? Leader is that, there is a little potential. Let them, or let him to a little job. Final definition, person who embraces mistakes and failures with sense of humor and calmness. Everybody can make a mistake, but you help them. It's all right, you can go ahead. Those are the 3 definitions. Now, she asked me, what is measures of success in your understanding? My measure of success is not how much I make money or what kind of rank or what kind of command and all these things, but your sense of appreciation and enjoyment of job and given tasks. Let's say in the morning you get up and say, damn it, I have to commute. I really hate this job. It's not successful even though you get the 60 salary and you get the highest rooftop of the beautiful condo. Doesn't mean anything at all. You have to really get up. I'm excited that I have to tackle this thing. That is a measure of success. You enjoy. You don't become a slave of labor, but you really do the things that you would like to do it. Next one is my definition of success is that how much people respect me. They, in front of you, they flatter you because sometimes you are threatening force and you have much more power, but behind it, then I would like to kill him if I have money or... But I truly respect that person, and sometimes you don't get it because flattering people don't say it in front of you, but maybe somehow you hear from the third person, you are respected, and that's a measure of success. Finally, your reputation as a person of integrity and common sense. A lot of people really don't understand what common sense is. There are a lot of common sense. A lot of them talk about, and those are the goals, the success. Realization of your goals or vision. How did you reach today? And I need to cite in front of so many great literary minds here, but this is really true. You know that we say the stupid Confucius said, you know, actually, when I was a little girl, I was learning Chinese classics from my father, and there was a Confucius, the famous line. This is what he said. At 15, I chose to learn. At 30, the foundation of knowledge was with me. At 40, I could judge correctly. At 50, heaven's will was clear to me. At 60, I knew what I heard. At 70, I made no mistake by following my mind.
I thought it was most poetic, wise words. So I told my dad, I follow his path. And when I look at my life, although I may not have all these wisdoms, at 15 I decided to be a scholar. At 30 I got a PhD. At 40 I could judge correctly whether this is a bad guy or a good guy. And at 50 I can sense that these are the very lovely people that have more time instead of going to work. At 60 I knew what I heard because a lot of people say you are very blunt, you are very direct, you are very honest. And at 70 I haven't reached that age yet, so we will see. What inspires you most to become a leader? I say great books, great mind and brain. I don't like dumb people. Sense of humor, humility, and inner beauty and gentle nature. These are the kind of things that always make me really shudder in front of any people who has, maybe somebody is not that greatly bright, but he has a sense of humor. Lovely. Inner beauty, really lovely. That should be Korean going through the cosmetic surgery. They never look at the inner beauty. And gentle nature, gentle nature, and big other things. And so I have a couple more minutes. Mentorship definition. I say mentorship is not just preaching. Act rather than preaching, because people can see you, who you are and what you are. And also the professionalism. I say Bill Gates is a great philanthropist, but when his Microsoft program is not working very well, I think he's not professional. If you're a medical doctor, you save the life. You do your work best. If you're a sushi maker, you make rotten sushi to make people sick. So professionalism is basically when people look at you, oh my God, I want to be like them. Who are my mentors? My father, mother, my teachers, and finally young and brave people. Let me briefly say, my father was my intellectual model. He was history professor. And my mother was a cultural model because she loved everybody. She was a great cook. She was a great fashionist. And I said, my mother is not bad. And then the teachers were my mentors basically. Particularly when I was growing up, from grammar school to the college, I particularly loved the teacher who taught music, art, and English. Other teachers were good too, but those three categories were really impressed me very much. And college teachers, one particular professor of linguistics who taught me the beauty of linguistics as a science, and who taught me Mongolian. How many of you love the Mongolian? I thought that was the most stupid thing he tried to teach us. Instead of French and German, I said, let's learn it. After learning the Mongolian and learning the science of linguistics, I said, oh my God, this is great. And then the Jesuit priest who told us real life. Korean men bang the door. They never open the door for the lady. You could break your nose. I heard the George Washington University students, same thing. Teacher behind me, they bang the door. But Jesuit priest opened the door when I was attending Southern College. He said, the lady first. I said, old man first. And then the Berkeley professor, particularly extremely smart and bright one, with a good sense of humor. Not just bright, but good sense of humor. I like them. And finally, I must say, these days, my mentors are young people, young and brave people, particularly US Navy, NGOs working in very difficult places, and finally volunteers. I have a very weak heart. If I see blood, I faint first. So I cannot go to the bloody African South Sudan, but people are serving there. They are my mentors. And finally, let me tell you, we cannot mentor all of you. I get about 3-4 emails to get a job, internship, doctoral, I want to work for you, blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay, let's make a priority. My priority is this. First of all, collective effort. Create an organization that people can mingle to find a mentor. So I did it myself. I created a women's organization for rich Koreans in LA. The Korea Club, I founded. And I'm the chairman of the board of directors of the Sejong Society. Johns Hopkins University and 11 university students, graduate students are get together. So you cannot mentor all of them. You create a space. And finally, individually, you have the younger ones, particularly who is looking for your wisdom, your help. So I have to prioritize. So my prioritize going like this. Number 1, Korean American woman. Number 2, Asian American woman. Number 3, Asian American man. Number 4, minority man. Clearly Latin Americans, okay? And finally, special category mentoring is necessary because I'm known as a North Korean expert. I'm mentoring the Korean high school and college students who who are mentoring North Korean defectors of their same age. So for that matter, I spent a really good time, and then basically my final category is that Chinese and Africans who are really great material to be the next generation leadership. I have to spend a lot of money out of my pocket when Chinese young stars are coming, because I am a local person. I took them to the dinner, drinks. You spend your own money, not from my research budget. But I say gently, this is what you have to look at in China carefully. They are now all professors of Fudan University, Shanghai Institute of International Strategic Studies, Beijing, cadre, even the party members. I've been mentoring when they were college here, but now they are the 30s and the early 40s. So I get great insights and reports from them. Whenever I need that, they protect me. And when they become 60s, China will have some changes. Finally, my last category was Africans who are in a similar situation. So that's how I see the leader and mentoring through this process. Thank you.
I don't think there's anyone who would slow her down or keep in her way. Did we do a great job with the panelists or what? Awesome. Thank you so much. At this time, I will entertain questions from the audience to my awesome panelists.
My name is Yang No-Yoon. I was a mentor last year here, but this year the mentorship is much better than I was. So I'm very, very happy because I can see the progress. Because there's nobody asking questions, I'm just asking one question as icebreaker. I'm a Korean and who actually entered the World Bank as a professional economist for the first time as a Korean woman who was born and grown up in Korea. So before me, there are a lot of Korean women at the World Bank, but they were administrative staff, and they were really excellent. So they sort of started from administrative staff, which is sort of secretary, but they went up like seniors. I was really respectful of them. I learned a lot from them, but I was the first female economist who joined the World Bank as a Korean woman. And then, so what I see now here is that today, for example, the mentor for international organization is Korean Ong Ye-rin. What was her name? Forgot. Ong Ye-rin. She is going to be your mentor. And I'm so proud of seeing this, seeing her become a mentor. At the same time, I'm so proud of all of you ask questions in very good English. When I came to the States, I don't understand really even the simplest English. Even though I went to Harvard, to the grad school, and I got a master in public policy at Kennedy School, and I got a PhD in economics at Cornell University. But my English was so bad. So now my question here is, we are all talking about mentoring. That's great. We talk a lot about our experience. But the situation has changed a lot. We are not like us. Your English is good, and Korea is very different. Not only Korea, East Asia is different. So when I came to the States, so Korea was nothing. They all talk about the Korean War, all these things. So I'd rather ask any panelist to talk about now young people are in very different stage. English, the knowledge of the global world, and the knowledge itself, and their standing in the organization, all these things different. So I'd like to ask you to give their sort of like a preparation as a leader. What kind of your advice you can give based on your experience for the new leaders coming? Thank you.
Well, I was thinking about Korean American students, and many kids come from high school and end up at great colleges. But there's been a study that shows that of Korean Americans who end up in the Ivy Leagues, a staggering 44% don't finish. The Institute of Korean American Studies looked at that and what's going on, what makes a kid successful, and they found 15 points. I can't remember all of them. I'll find that. But some of the things that struck me most were parents who paid taxes, parents who were involved in volunteer boards, parents who were involved or in voting volunteer boards, parents who also were involved in stewardship. So I think a lot of that comes with mentoring, because even if you have the smartest kid, they still need some guidance. They can get there, but in order to become a leader, they need you to guide them there. Because as Gina was saying, about 20 years ago, if somebody told me if I could go back and if I needed to do A, B, and C, that's where mentoring comes in. Because now you can say, well, don't waste your time doing this. A, B, and C, go approach it this way. Because we want everyone to be successful, but being a straight A student and having perfect SATs isn't enough.
I'll just say this. There are a lot of Asian people, especially Asian women, who are extremely smart, and most of them probably work harder than you guys. So by competing against these people with your hard work and your smarts, it's just not enough. So there has to be something that's plus alpha. And I'd like to say that plus alpha is basically going to be your character and your integrity. So at the end of the day, that's what's gonna basically what's gonna get you far and how you're going to reach your goal. So don't sacrifice your character and your integrity, okay, for what you can attain immediately, okay, for Ivy League or degrees or jobs or money. So hold on to that.
Usually Asian people usually known by not speaking up what they want to be. So just working too hard, but they don't let their bosses what is their goals are. If there is any promotion coming up, hey, I'm interested, my goal is this after this year. And can you be my mentor? Because you continue to talking with them, and then they know what you want to do. And so they can, if there is any opportunity come, hey, by the way, you wanted to do this. Why I don't introduce that person and go meet them? And so don't be shy. Shy in America, shy doesn't go anywhere. You have to be brave yourself and humor, talkative, speak up what you want. If you don't speak up, you don't get it. So don't be shy.
I'll just make a final challenge. I think we've made it financially in America as Asians. We've made it in academics and grades. We have to stop thinking that getting a good job, getting a good grade is enough. It's not. So when we look at ourselves, do you want to be the leader in the next chairman of the department? Do you want to be the best mom that you could be? It doesn't matter what realm you are, because I think being a mom is the hardest thing in life. But basically, challenge yourself and find someone that you really think who can mentor for you. And use who you are. You're your best advocate. And thank you so much for attending. We're going to have small sessions, and I'll turn the mic over to Dr. Young.
Okay, so before we have lunch, I'd like to present a small gift to our speaker. So this is, wait a minute, I think this is okay, so yeah, 오늘 준비는요, 주로 그 멘토하고 모더레이터 찾는데 시간을 제일 많이 드렸어요. 물론 키노트 스피치가 제일 중요해서 그거부터 제일 먼저 정했는데 그거는 마침 저 주위 동료가 좋은 분이 있어가지고 하기가 쉬워서 이번에는 그 그쪽 면은 쉬웠고요. 그리고 패널은 우리 멤버 중에 하나 그 서영숙 의사님이 맡아주셔가지고 그것도 또 순조로웠습니다. 사실은 스피커 찾는데 조금 시간 걸리긴 했는데 전부들 동조해 주셔서 좋은 모임이 될 것 같습니다.
예, 오늘 많은 사람들이 오셨는데요. 예, 어떠세요? 이렇게 오늘 토요일 날인데 좋은 행사를 하게 되는데 기분이 어떠세요?
글쎄 어떻게 날씨도 너무나 협조적이고 그리고 젊은 사람 보니까 기분이 좋네요.
오늘 너무 좋죠. 왜냐면 일단은 한인 여성으로서 다양한 그 방면에서 성공적이신 분들이 함께 모이는 것만으로도 정말 한국인님이 굉장히 자랑스러워요. 근데 그런 것뿐만 아니라 자기가 각 영역에서 얻은 그런 스킬들이며 그런 지혜들을 그 다음 제너레이션한테 전달해 줄 수 있는 거에 굉장히 뜻깊은 그 위닝을 갖고 있다고 생각해요. 너무 좋아요.
세미나가 너무너무 잘 오가나이즈 돼 있고요. Do I speak in Korean or I'm English?
Yeah, both sides.
Both sides. And I think all the speakers are wonderful and their speeches were coming from their own heart and experience. I learned a lot from this. Thank you.
정말 너무 좋았고요. 정말 많이 배웠어요. 너무 좋은 말씀들을 많이 해주셔서 정말 계속 공부할 때 열심히 쓰겠습니다. 너무 되게 감명 깊은 말씀도 많이 들었고요. 되게 여성으로서 살아가면서 힘든 점도 많은데 다른 분들도 그런 똑같은 힘든 거 겪으면서 그리고 다 성공하신 분들 이야기를 듣고 많이 도움이 됐어요. 아주 좋은 시간이었던 것 같아요.
이런 기회가 있다는 것 자체가 굉장히 좋은 것 같고요. 그리고 막 한국 문화 있는 사람들끼리 같이 모여서 이런 거 할 수 있다는 게 되게 좋은 것 같아요.
저희 지금 조지 워싱턴 한인 학생회 학부 학생회에서 이렇게 지원 나오게 됐습니다.
아, 그러세요?
네네.
예, 오늘 이렇게 준비하면서 어떠셨어요?
오늘 이렇게 사실 저희가 작년부터 코인을 같이 지원을 나오기 시작했는데 여기 와 보니까 되게 유력한 한국 여성분들도 많이 만나고 좋은 패널 스피커분들도 많으셔서 지원하러 나왔는데도 많이 배우고 가는 것 같습니다.
예, 앞으로도 계속 이렇게 조인할 건가요?
예, 앞으로도 계속 나올 수 있도록 하겠습니다.
네, 감사합니다.
한국 여성들이 높은 위상을 갖고 있다는 것을 절실히 느꼈습니다. 그리고 그런 인생 로성에 대해서 재미있는 얘기를 많이 들려주어가지고 깊은 감동을 받았습니다.
그렇게 많이 안 했는데 처음으로 여기 와가지고는 미국에 살고 있는 한국 여성분들이 예전 제가 옛날 유학할 때 20년 전에 지금 현재 여성분들의 위상이 굉장히 이랬다고 생각합니다. 게다가 앞으로 더 연결 제너레이션 같은 경우는 더 많은 사람들이, 많은 여성들이 미국 사회에 본류가 될 수 있다. 그런 생각이 잘 들었습니다.
네, 기대했던 것보다 많은 훌륭한 멘토들이 나오셔서 좋은 경험, 그다음에 좋은 각오를 가져야 되는 그런 목소리를 내줘서 저희 젊은이들의 차세대들한테 굉장히 많이 도움이 된 것 같아요.
Teaching was great today. I really liked the lecture. Alexa and everyone was really great. And it was a great, successful event, and I was really inspired by what they were saying, and it was really motivational and an inspiration to me.
I think it was great. It was a brilliant experience. I have many Korean friends, and I really wanted to attend it, especially because Alexa Huang was the keynote speaker. And overall, I think the panel was very inspirational. I'm a Pakistani. I was very inspired by Korean women and the stamina that they have, and how career-oriented they are. So I think mentoring was a great experience.
It's been really good. I really enjoyed it. It's a lot of people are really friendly, and I feel like I'm learning a lot.
Where are you come from? You born here?
No, I was born in Colombia. Colombia. I'm South American, and I'm currently attending American University. I'm a junior there in the Kowin School of Business.
They're inspiring and powerful. I mean, it's beautiful to see all these powerful women and sharing their experiences and trying to empower us. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I really like it.